Right. Hello. Welcome back. This is part 2 of this week on Presto. And like I've said before, this is Earned Happy Endings and the Manic Pixar Dream Girl series. Part 7! Can you believe it? We've been doing this for 7 weeks now. The royal we. But then again, I consider you part of my world, my lovely, lovely audience. Mostly friends and family, I'm sure. So, let's talk Presto. So, I'm going to start with the basics of the magic show and the setup for the magic show, now that we've learned about our characters. See how long that takes. If it's around 10 minutes, we'll stop there, take another break. If not, we'll just dive right into the action. So, we have this panic backstage, and now they are in the spotlight. Presto is in the spotlight, they're on stage, and we will very quickly see that Presto is just as pompous on stage as he is off stage. He has this kind of air of snobby dignity, communicated through his expressions and his rigid body language. And now the body language in this short is just brilliant. And I know I've said brilliant 1,000 times. I don't care, because this is what's really, really brilliant. I don't know if he can qualify brilliant. Sure, let's go with it. Anyways, so rigid body language on Presto's part. But Alec, oh Alec. Alec, by contrast, has sympathetic body language. Specifically, he has big, expressive eyes, floppy ears that change with his emotions, and as Sweetland points out in his commentary, if you watched, if you didn't, no worries, I'll tell you all about it. Again, one of my favorite things is Alec's eyebrows. And they are soft and sad and curved, and they are not angry, and they were actually a last-minute change by the animators because they are what establishes Alec's actions, as they're the ones that make him look apologetic for his actions as opposed to sadistic. It is all in the eyebrows. They are what make They are what make Alec a sympathetic character as opposed to an antagonistic one. And I think that's so cool, because you don't think about those things until you step back and listen to the director or notice it on your own, and you realize it's all in something as small as the eyebrows. So they make him an innocent figure, like I said, as opposed to a trickster, someone like Bugs Bunny in Looney Tunes. And they point to an advance in Pixar animation, because the studio has now moved on from plastic objects and aliens to familiar live beings, and attention and care to detail in body language allows for the same subtle character development that they used in their earlier works, and that give these characters personality. So this is them working with faces again, but using the lessons they learned working with inanimate objects without faces. So, like, you can think of Alec's eyebrows and his ears much like Tinny's plume or Luxo's wiggle, or the alien's hat, or the snowman's hat. Lots of hats. Usually it's headwear. Who knew? But it gives characters personality, and in Presto, it's the eyes and the ears. So now that we have the body language, it's also important to note the setting, because it's key to character motivation. The hall is huge, and is full of people, as opposed to the empty circus of something like Red's Dream. It raises the stakes, because everything Presto does is going to be on display for this crowd. So he's not the sad, lonely clown of Red's Dream without an audience. He actually has an audience, and the potential for humiliation. That's going to become super key. And so when things start to fall apart, it'll be all the more severe. And so the audience within the film also gives us a access point. So we can understand what it looks like to people within the strange cartoon world and figure out their reactions and that will help guide our reactions. So we can use the audience's reactions to each trick and antic as a guide to how these gags appeared in their reality. Because we have this very strange perspective, this very biased perspective, and we get to see what it looks like from their angle. And we can also know what's actually dangerous and what is actually funny, much like when the Knick-Knack figurines were watching him and reacting, and similarly the big alien not reacting and then ultimately reacting and lifted. Also, the audience will become a joke in and of themselves as they unintentionally start to validate Alex's pranks with applause because they think they're part of the show. Also important to note is the relationship established on stage. Presto keeps Alec off stage so that he can pull him out of the hat, and this sets up a hierarchy where Presto is the star and Alex merely a tool or a sidekick. Their relationship and the characters themselves will start to be challenged and forced to change as the short continues, and that will be the truly innovative work in Presto. But what we learned backstage is key for the main gags of the short to work on top of this relationship, because it needed to be established that Presto is a fool and a neglectful one, and that Alec is a victim of that neglect. And now that he is established as a sidekick as well, it just kind of cements this relationship and the struggles within it. And it'll also they are also important things to have in mind as Alec starts to use Presto's act as a vehicle to take revenge, or the more innocent interpretation is to motivate Presto to give him the carrot. So before we get into the main action, the kind of first indication of the way things will unravel is a very basic kind of basic trick and then basic gag. Presto sticks his hand in the black hat to pull out Alec, who is wearing the purple hat. Remember, we have that wormhole where they can travel in between it. So again, Presto isn't actually performing any magic here. He's just using these magical tools. So our eyes are on Presto, not Alec, and we see him stick the hand in and then pause and look confused and he starts to search around with his hand while trying to keep a neutral face for the audience to not betray that something is wrong. So while we don't yet know what exactly is wrong, this is the first indication that this entire act will not go as planned. And the lack of audience response kind of builds upon the awkwardness of this moment. The delay in action leaves them bored and disappointed, and so we now know Presto's motivation to make this work, because otherwise he's stuck with a dud act. So we now understand why he needs to get Alec out of the hat as quickly as possible in order to save his show. So now we have Presto's goal on top of Alec's goal, and we can see the kind of clashing of forces here. And then the punchline is revealed in the next cut, because Alec's standing there holding the hat off of his head and giving Presto a disappointed look. Again, it's all the eyebrows. That kind of shows that he is not playing ball. This is sabotage. And Presto glares at him and gestures at him to cooperate, because again, remember, he's the more powerful figure in this relationship, or at least he thinks so. But Alex slowly shakes his head because he's starting to reclaim power. And with the what was before the mistreatment of an underling has now become a clash of equals, with two characters with equally strong desires going at each other. And then Alec, in a comedic moment that also, again, serves the story, makes his point even clearer by miming eating a carrot. And so this is a nod to the fact that, if you haven't noticed so far, but you should have, this film has no dialogue and is also making use of silent comedy. So because of that, more use has to be made of the characters' bodies and gestures, like we were talking about with the eyes and ears, like Last Order had to do with Junior, Red, and Tinny, and now we see in Alec. But because of that, you get to take advantage of silent film history, silent film comedy history. You get to take advantage, on top of that, of Looney Tunes and silly symphonies. This is the advantage of making films in today as opposed to back then, because we get to use what those film pioneers learned back then, and make our films better. So I realize that sounded a little confusing. Just in case you're unfamiliar, Looney Tunes, silly symphonies, they all had sound. But that being said, the silent comedies obviously didn't, and we're using all of that to kind of make this ultimate piece. So, awesome. We are just a little bit over 10 minutes, and so I'm going to take a break, and we're going to talk about the kind of escalating gags of the show, and figure out how they work and how they continue to show off the relationship between these two characters. And we'll get to see how they grow and change and all sorts of fun things. So, take a break, come back,